Happy hump day. Thank you so much for joining me. If it's live or on a replay, thank you for tuning in. My name is Dr. Sandra Colton-Medici, and we are going to be talking about some of the things that are happening today in life, in politics, all the drama, because there is so much. Just to start with, I was up at the 1 a.m. hour of not the markup, it's the Rules Committee that decided to hold their meeting at 1 a.m. Eastern time last night. Thankful for me, it was only 10 p.m. Pacific. So I stayed up for several hours. I live streamed it on TikTok for a little bit because it was on the AP's YouTube live stream. So I was just live streaming from their live stream. And they took about the first hour to basically do introductions and statements. It was a lot of thank you for coming and blah, blah, blah. There were a few fiery things at the beginning. The person who runs the rules committee, I was genuinely like, wow, she has a lot of angst going on at 1 a.m. in the morning. And then I was like, the rebuttal kind of fiery statement from the ranking member of the Democrats, he had a lot going on too. So I was like, okay, this is going to be something. Let's talk about some of the headlines because we're only going to be on here for about 27 more minutes. So I want to get into some of the things that are happening today. This is one of the biggest things that I think that a lot of people are not aware of. Okay, so the Senate unexpectedly passes the No Tax on Tips Act. Okay, so in this particular, what is it called? Article, this is on NBC News. So for this particular one, Senate unexpectedly passes the No Tax on Tips Act in a unanimous vote. Senator Jackie Rosen, Democrat from Nevada, called up the bipartisan bill for immediate passage and no senator objected. Now, this rarely happens, okay? This is almost unheard of, okay? But one of the things that a lot of people are like championing this vote, yay, no tax on tips. Okay, I used to work in Las Vegas and a lot of people get tipped out, right? A lot of people get tipped. Now, a lot of people everywhere in the United States get tipped. But there is this sort of tip culture that has been in flux recently, where like if you go to the ice cream store and you get a scoop and then they flip over the screen and they're asking you to tip, and a lot of people are very weirded out by that and they think like, what did you exactly do, right? Another scenario is how much do you tip, right? And a lot of these businesses are barely paying their employees because they're just kind of relying on the fact that they know that people are going to tip. In this economy, I'm not quite sure that they're actually tipping people as regularly as they probably used to. Okay, now just to remind you, they unanimously voted for this, but something that people did not see is the fine print, okay? Surprise move, this Republican-led Senate did vote for this, okay? Now, if you go down in the article, it would create a tax deduction worth up to $25,000 for tips, limited to cash tips that workers report to employers for withholding purposes on payroll taxes. So they limited this tax deduction, one, to the amount, and two, for cash tips only. So if you're thinking about the actual reporting of tips, most people, I'm not saying all, but many people do not report cash tips because why? Because a lot of people don't carry cash on them anymore, and rarely do people tip in cash. Now, some people still do. Some people still tip in cash. Some people randomly always have cash on them, like Christy Nome, who just randomly was walking around with, what was it, $3,000 in her purse when it was stolen in Washington, D.C. But a lot of people just click whatever the percentage is when they're actually doing the transaction for paying their bill, and they just do that digitally, okay? So a lot of people weren't reporting cash tips. So now this is almost like a forced mechanism to make people start reporting those cash tips. Now, I know that a lot of people and this is interesting that it was brought up by a Nevadan, because a lot of people tip in Las Vegas. A lot of people are tipping, especially tipping out their bartenders, their servers, their hosts, all that stuff, right? But if we're limiting it to cash tips, that is one of those things where people are like, oh, do they always report their cash tips? Now they are more likely to, which might make their income on paper go higher, right? And then it goes on to say, the tax break would also be restricted to employees who earn $160,000 or less in 2025, an amount that will rise with inflation, blah, 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 blah. So if you're thinking that this was going to be like, woo, no tax on tips, it's like no cash up to $25,000 for limited to cash tips. Okay. So all those people who were getting tips digitally because people were adding the tip into the transaction, that's not part of this. So a lot of people thought, woo, it's a win. No, homies, this is not a win like that. It does continue on if you want to read a little bit more, but a lot of people were a little bit duped there, and you have to read the fine print. This is an email that I got from AOC, and I wanted to highlight this because it's about LaMonica McIver. And if you haven't been following this, she is the congresswoman that the DOJ recently indicted. So this is an email from AOC basically saying, ICE arrested an elected official conducting oversight of an ICE facility in Newark. And then she goes on to talk about, and let me try to get out of the way, that on Monday, the Attorney General brought charges against a member of Congress who was at the same facility, at the same ICE facility. I think that what she's trying to do here is make sure that we are all understanding what they're trying to do. She's saying that she is standing with LaMonica McIver because she stood up to the Trump administration's illegal activity, and now she's a political target. I think it's important to note that we need to make sure that we keep this out there and keep this story trending because this is unacceptable. A lot of people watched the video. She was invited to this ICE facility to take a tour, to do her oversight responsibility. I'm not quite sure where the charges are stemming from because in the videos she is sort of surrounding the Newark mayor. And in that, I think they are bringing charges as to how her physically being there has maybe obstructed their ability to arrest someone who they later dropped the charges on. So I'm not quite sure if you're dropping charges on someone that should never have been arrested, why you're bringing charges for someone who was protecting someone who never should have been arrested. So I don't know how that really works, but apparently that is exactly what happened. This is one of the top stories this morning. U.S.-China relations. Sorry, I didn't turn off my my text messages here. U.S.-China relations sour again, just days after unexpected tariff truce. How about that? Did you think that was going to happen? Yeah, it's pretty much to be expected because Donald Trump still thinks that he's in charge, and I think that his bluff was called by the Chinese president, and here we are. We're supposed to be in this sort of 90-day pause, and I'm not quite sure how beefing with the Chinese president during the pause is going to help our cause. It's very interesting how that's going to play out. How7 says, hi. Hello. Allie said, seen this AM, pretty sad, but not surprised in the least. I am not surprised that he's still trying to right? Poke the bear, so to speak. I actually brought this one up because I saw this headline and I wanted to bring it up because I actually got an email from our school. I have two kids in elementary school, and they sent a sort of urgent warning home about destroying school property that they sent to every parent. And I was like, who's destroying, all the sort of technology at school? What's going on? And this is what they're talking about. What is the Chromebook challenge? The trend that has students destroying school laptops. So if you haven't heard about this, apparently it is a trend online, and there are students that are participating in this particular challenge. Just to kind of let you know, social media challenge, and it began, I believe, early in May. Encourages students to stick small items like paper clips or pencils inside of their Chromebooks, and then a small cloud of smoke, generates from sticking things into the side sort of compartments and I guess inputs or outputs or whatever. Why? I mean, I don't know what the benefit is. What are they videoing themselves doing this? It's destruction of school property, and people should know better. And I don't know if there's like this like moment of gratification of destroying something that people are into these days, but I don't know. I saw that email come home, and I was like, are kindergartners doing this? Are like teenagers doing this? Like I'm not quite sure what grade level this is trending at. I feel like it's probably a higher grade level than elementary school, but I could be wrong. Hi Vivian, how are you? House 7 said, yes, this is an awful trend. I mean, I thought the ice bucket challenge, like there was some nobleness to it, but I also thought like, why? Like, just as far as trends go, it just felt like I don't know. I was not part of it, but there are some that for charity, for donation, like this is just for shits and giggles. Anyways, I think that it is really ridiculous to see these kinds of challenges, especially done by school children, and especially for the technology that we're trying to have them learn how to use, and then now is destroyed. Taxpayer dollars just out the window, of course. This is something that's happening. A lot of people thought these sort of trials of Harvey Weinstein were done. Apparently not. Weinstein accuser says he dragged, stripped, and raped her after learning she was seeing somebody else in 2014. I believe this is one of the last Weinstein accusers to be on the stand to be providing testimony. Oh my God, House 7. Imagine the Chromebook explodes. I mean, anything's possible, and I would hope that that wouldn't happen. But if they're playing with fire, you know, uh, I mean, there are reasons why they say, putting things under the plane. Yeah, I'm not sure what would cause it to do that, but you never know. Um, Jessica Mann, the last of three women to testify against Harvey Weinstein in his Manhattan retrial, made a pointed gesture at the disgraced movie mogul on her way out of court Tuesday. So if you've been following this, I don't know the ins and outs of this particular trial. I just remember that Harvey Weinstein, at the height of his sort of, kind of condemnation, was part of the spike of the Me Too movement, right? And I think probably the height of the downfall, or the start of the downfall of many, many, many people who were in power in Hollywood. I'm not sure how many people associated, like, how people are like adjacent to different people in Hollywood. I'm not quite sure how many people felt the effects of that Me Too movement. I feel like Diddy is probably part of that sort of adjacent sort of power structure in how the Me Too movement has, moved further and further, out from, not necessarily from Hollywood, but also into the music industry in his alleged charges. But his also don't just have to do with allegedly hurting people in this sort of raping situation. His charges also extend to alleged racketeering and sex trafficking and things of that nature. That is crazy too. um, House 7 says, wherever did he go, crimes follow. I'm not sure if wherever. I think sometimes, how people are, and I'm not saying he's unlucky, because I think a lot of the things that are being alleged are kind of being sussed out in court. But sometimes people who do things, whether it's, nefarious things or even good things, sometimes things are attracted to those people. So if people are doing drugs, maybe people who want to do drugs with you are attracted to that. Now, I'm not saying anything about the raping and the sex trafficking aspect of this, but I do think that sometimes if you're doing good, sometimes that sort of law of attraction is possible for, more good things to happen to you. And sometimes more bad things happening to you as well. That's just all I'm saying on that. I thought this was an interesting headline. Matthew McConaughey and Drew Brees among early buyers willing to spend $1.25 million for membership to the exclusive Austin Surf Club. Have you ever been to Austin? I want to know, what do you think of Austin? I always remember, like, wasn't there like a real world season in like Austin, like way back in the day? And just like Portland, it's like keep Portland weird. I feel like there was like a keep Austin weird, and there's so many different sort of technology ventures that are happening there. This particular one is talking about 140 condos, homes, restaurants, and more. It's not built yet, but people are investing in it. And it talks about a huge artificial pool, clubhouse, restaurant, like a lot of surfable waves, like just crazy. It's kind of like building in the desert. You know how there's all these sort of like man-made attractions in Las Vegas. This is what it's giving to me, like the vibe that it's giving. If you haven't had a chance, to subscribe to my channel, please take a moment. It's free here on YouTube. And then also go to my community tab. There's at least one poll per day in my community tab. You can just take it for free. I just want to hear your opinion on all of those different polls. Let's move on, because yes, Austin is an interesting city, and they've got a lot of, I think, attention as far as being like sort of a younger vibe, younger city for like the tech growth and all that stuff. This one I talked about before. Recession hair is trending, but will it actually save you money? Now, on the cover of Vogue is Hailey Bieber. She has brunette. She's got brown hair. She is giving just straight brunette. And I thought that was very interesting. And then I saw this article, and a lot of people believe that the shelves are going to start to be a little bit more empty, that prices are going to go up with all of the tariffs, and people are going to stop doing this, which is stop coloring their hair, going back to their natural color, their natural roots, blah, 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 blah. A lot of stuff could happen, right? I'm not sure if you're going to do this though. So let me know if you are spending money on your hair, if you are foregoing the sort of blonde treatments or highlights to save money. I personally literally just dyed my hair red a little bit. You can't really see it. Let me take it down so you can kind of see this. I haven't had a chance to do my hair this morning, but you can kind of see that there's a little bit more of like a reddish tint to the top. I don't know if you can see that. I can see it, but that's just because it's me. So that's my hair. You can kind of see a little bit more reddish undertones there. And this is store-bought. So I did not do anything where I was going to a salon and you can kind of see it a little bit more there, like that, because I'm not trying to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on, red dyes and maintaining it that way, when I can just go and get some store-bought and do it that way. So what are your thoughts about recession hair? And are you really going to put a lot of money into your zhuzh, your sort of self-care routine? Because a lot of people are thinking about pulling back. Let me go to here. This is very interesting. Jennifer Lopez sued in a copyright case for posting photos of herself to social media. Now, the headline sounds like, oh, she just posted some photos. But it gets a little deeper than that, because this is something that has happened with celebrities before. A photographer and photo agency filed a lawsuit against Jennifer Lopez alleging copyright infringement after the actor and singer allegedly posted copyrighted photos of herself from a pre-Golden Globes party to social media. And it goes on to accuse her of posting photos of her arriving and departing in January on Instagram and X without permission. So this is like a photo agency, and that photo agency is the one who holds, I believe, the rights to those photos. And then she allegedly reposted those photos to her accounts on social media without the permission of that agency. So I know that a lot of people forget that even if someone has posted, a photo of a celebrity or whatever, that celebrity can't just pull that without attribution, without permission, and potentially without paying that specific photo agency for that content. So I'm not sure if they originally had an agreement that maybe they didn't, you know, renew. I'm not sure. Or if they never had any agreement and she thought that that was one of her photos that she could use. Who knows what it is. But that's really the sort of issue here is if it was part of a photo agency's content, then the licensing of that has to happen. Now, something similar has happened on TikTok. They re-changed up all of their guidelines for, especially for creators who are monetized. And like I'm doing right here with a green screen, posting content that has to do with articles that have already been published. I cannot just word for the entire article read to you what it says, because that would be me taking that content and literally reading word for word the entire article, which technically is copyright infringement. Normally I just read part of the headline and a little bit of what it's saying so that you get the gist of what they're trying to convey, and then we can have dialogue around that particular factual content. And a lot of people do read verbatim entire articles online, and that is sort of what basically they're alleging here, which is kind of taking from one and putting on another instead of having some sort of discourse, which is what I try to do, which is have conversation about certain facts within an article that you can then have an opinion on or add to the conversation about what you know about that particular article. So that's the change that TikTok made. I believe that went into effect yesterday. And so a lot of times when we look at sort of copywriting and licensing and all of that stuff, it's very important, especially in the age of social media, that people are getting strikes, they're getting takedowns, they're getting their accounts banned, all of that stuff. And in the sort of real world of this, people can get sued, right? So let's move on. There are a few more. I think I didn't get to, I screenshotted so much this morning. I have to actually look it up because there's so much going on. This is one of the biggest ones. Target's problems are escalating. I have been on the Target boycott for a long time now. I think since the beginning of this year. And I'm not really bothered by it. I don't know about you. Did you start boycotting Target? Have you been into a Target? Are they bustling where you live? Is it desolate? Is it empty? In some places, it must be, because they are basically saying they're having some issues. Now, this is from CNN Business. If you're trying to find the article, just to kind of give you a little bit, the company said Wednesday that its sales fell last quarter, driven in part by customer backlash due to Target's reversal on DEI programs. So if you haven't had a chance to sort of suss out your local Target, walk in, let me know what happens. Some people have been doing this sort of thing where they walk in and don't buy anything so that their conversion rate drops. So because they count how many people come in versus how many people buy something while they're there. Some people have gone in. I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm letting you know what people are doing. Some people are walking in, buying something, and then returning it because that changes their sort of purchase versus return rate. That's something that people have done. Some people just have been walking in and filming to see if it's empty in there. And also with the sort of tariff thing that's happening, people have been focused on prices too, looking at what it was before versus what it is now versus are there empty shelves or are all the shelves being filled with like a lot of just nonsense like paper plate, not that paper plates are nonsense, but filled with a lot of just sort of paper items like toilet paper or paper towels or things that they have a lot of quantity in the back that they're just having to fill the shelves with because the rest of the supplies haven't shown up yet. Let's see. I missed all of House 7's comments. Diddy did a lot of bad, so I guess that settled it. I'm nowhere near Austin. Yes, I don't live near Austin either. I'm in California. So I think there's a lot as far as like the Target situation, a lot that could be done. But I'm not sure how willing they are to right their wrongs. This is from the Diddy trial. Expert witness. This was from right before I got online. Expert witness to testify on victim behavior and trauma excluded from discussing coercive control. Now, this is important because I believe this is the same person that was part of the Johnny Depp trial. Okay, so, and the fact that they're excluding this sort of coercive control is important because on the stand, I believe Cassie Ventura's mother testified that allegedly Cassie was forced to pay back money that he had spent on her, money that Diddy had spent on her. And Cassie's mother took out some sort of like second mortgage type of a situation, equity from her home in order to pay that money back to Diddy. And it wasn't like she had been loaned money. It was like, I spent all this money on you, kind of a situation. Now I want it back. They paid Diddy this money that he had requested for whatever he had bought for her. And then somehow that money ended up back into the account. So, like, he was coercive in this nature, right? Allegedly. And now this particular witness is being excluded from talking about coercive control. But that is a little bit of the sort of like backbone of a lot of the sort of racketeering and like coercive charges that I believe they brought from the prosecution, is that he would threaten allegedly some of these people, and that's what kept them silent, right? So it's very, it's messy. I don't know what's true, what's not true. Obviously, they can prove some of this with documentation of funds being removed and sent and put back, and if that actually happened, right? But I thought that this is interesting that they're using some of the same experts in these celebrity trials. That's all for me this morning. There are so many things we could keep going, and they actually are going. They went through the night for this rules committee. So right now there's about 2,400 people watching on YouTube. I still have it on my computer. They are still live and they are still going. So if you have a chance, I would tune in to the rules committee meeting, that hearing that they're having, because it is still going. Have a great Wednesday, you guys, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Bye, guys.